got a story for you. So the day is November 10th, the day before Veterans Day, and I'm getting out of my car, and my zflip 4, which I've had for less than 3 months at that point, it just falls out of my pocket and lands on my driveway, which is covered in ice. And this is far from the first time that I've dropped this phone, and every other time it's been fine. But I don't know if it just made a weird sound when it fell or something, but something just didn't feel right. And so I panicked and picked it up, and it would not open past 90 degrees. As you can see from this picture, it looks like the hinge kind of just came out of place, and yeah, just you would try to open it and it would just give you some negative resistance, and it just felt like if you were going to open it any further that it would break the phone. So anyways, I contacted Samsung, and I'm just texting their rep and explaining the situation, and they say, oh, well, our authorized repair center, Ubreakifix, you got a location within a couple miles of you. Let's book you an appointment. They didn't ask if I dropped it or anything like that. It's just a little side note about me is I really pride myself on being an honest person and always telling the truth. And had they asked me, did this happen because you dropped it? I would have just said yes, because that is what happened. But they never asked, and I think that they realized, and I did a lot of research, and this is a very common issue. A lot of people have their hinge break and not open. So I think that Samsung realizes that they kind of have a design flaw, and even if it is people's fault that this is happening, that they're being a good company and repairing it under warranty. So anyways, they say, hey, there's a Ubreakifix, there's authorized Samsung repair service, there's one within a couple miles. They book me an appointment for the next day at 5:20 p.m. and I get off work, I head there, and I see a sign on the door saying, hey, due to short staff, we're closing at 5 o'clock today. I was like, I had an appointment, and you guys saw that I had an appointment. You could have called me and told me and let me know. A little frustrating. Anyways, I'll just swing by after work the next day. So Saturday, I'm at my second job, and I swing by after work, and I talk to the guy, explain the situation. They're super swamped, by the way. I'm like third person in line, and the other two people in front of me are taking forever. I finally get there after waiting there for about 20 minutes, and I tell him the situation, and he's like, okay, sorry that happened yesterday, and honestly, we're just too booked today to get to this. He's like, let me book you an appointment for Monday at the same time. So Monday rolls around, and I get a phone call, and he's like, hey man, honestly, we're just booked again. Sorry, we're not going to be able to get to this today, but we'll reschedule you for Tuesday. And I'm like, okay, this is like the third time that you've rescheduled this appointment. Is it actually going to happen this time? And he's like, yeah, sorry, we do get our second repairman in tomorrow. I was like, I promise, like, this is the last time we'll do this to you. And I'm like, okay, it sounds good. We had a family lunch planned for that day, so just to increase my chances, I went ahead and booked it for noon instead of the 5:20, because I figured just, the earlier I get in, the less backed up they'll be. I leave work a little bit early, and I go and I drop off my phone, and, they take it, and they're like, okay, we'll do our best to get to this today. And I go all day without my phone, and I swing by on my way home from work. They say, hey, we've taken the phone apart, and here's the issue. Looks like you just need a new frame. And I was like, okay, so can you take care of it and get it done tonight? And they're saying, no, we don't have any of these frames in stock. Let's go ahead and get one ordered. And so they're like, Samsung always does next day air, so we should have it tomorrow. I was like, okay, I'll let you just hang on my phone for another day, no big deal. So I swing by on my way back home the next day, and they had moved it to the new frame, but now there's just an issue where the screen just wasn't staying on for more than 5 seconds. They showed it to me. They're like, yeah, see, you turn the screen on, and 5 seconds later it just turns off. Which, side note here, I'm a type 1 diabetic, and at that time my phone was literally controlling all my diabetes. I was looping with the Omnipod, so I was controlling my insulin delivery. It was connected to my Dexcom, telling me what my blood sugar was. So it was a very big deal to not have my phone. And that entire time that they had it, that they were supposed to be repairing it, I was having to do, finger pricks to know what my blood sugar is, and having to get myself shots every time that I ate. So for most people, it's a big deal to not have a phone, especially you use it for work and stuff. It was that for me, plus all my diabetes stuff. So it was a huge deal to not have my phone, and to have them not have it fixed after going through all that, it was very, very frustrating. Thankfully, I did have cellular on my watch, so people, for the most part, were still able to get a hold of me. So they basically just said, hey, we think that maybe the ribbon cable on the screen got damaged when we're moving it over to the new frame, so we'll order a new one in, it'll be in tomorrow. And at that point I was like, whatever, do what you gotta do. And at that point I went home and just completely revamped my diabetes management. I moved to the Omnipod 5 with the dedicated controller. If you're not diabetic, you probably have no idea what it is. But if you are a diabetic or know someone who is a diabetic, I do have a separate channel that I talk about diabetes stuff. I'll put a link in the description below, and I'll do a dedicated video on the Omnipod 5. But anyway, so I go back the next day, and they're like, yeah, we're still not able to get this working. And so he's like, I'm working with like the highest ups at Samsung, and finally I reached someone who's like, yeah, you're not supposed to be working on this phone. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you have the special, bespoke edition. He's like, the normal parts for these don't work. Bespoke use specific parts. So you're going to just need to go ahead and send it in to Samsung. This is a Friday at this point. Like, I've not had a working phone for over a week at this point, and Ubreakifix has had it for several days. So I'm just super frustrated at this point. Honestly, I don't even really put this on Ubreakifix. Like, yeah, all the delays and everything were, but like Samsung, you gotta know, you gotta tell your repair people what they can and cannot work on. I get that, like, of all the Z Flip 4s that are sold, probably less than 10% are the bespoke edition, but considering that was like the big bonus of doing the pre-order is that you get into the higher storage at no cost, which lets you get the bespoke edition. Like, I'm far from the only one that has a bespoke edition. And so this is something that should be more well known. You shouldn't have to get up to tier 3 tech support at Ubreakifix before you find out that you can't fix it. And then to make matters worse, Ubreakifix, when they give me my phone back, they say, oh, by the way, when we were taking it apart, the machine that takes the phone apart, it broke the glass panel right above the screen. And they said they put my original screen back in with the original frame, and I noticed that there's like a little blotch right along where the crease is. So not only did they not fix my phone, they returned it to me in significantly worse condition than what it was in when I gave it to them. So I start messaging Samsung again, and I explain the situation, and I'm like, hey, here's the situation. I've already been like a week and a half without a working phone. I don't want to have to wait to mail it in, have you guys repair it, and then ship it back to me. I was like, there's got to be something else that we can do here. I explained the whole situation where it controls my diabetes, my Dexcom, and my insulin and everything, and they still were just like, you still got to just ship it in. It's literally our only option. I basically told them, hey, this is not a viable option. I cannot be another week without my phone. It just makes my life so much harder, controlling my health. This is not just me throwing a fit for no reason. Like, I have a legitimate health reason why I cannot be away from my phone. And he's like, I understand that, but my hands are tied. There's nothing else I can do. And I'm talking to like the level 3 management at this point. He's like, the other thing that we could do is we could ship you another device and like count your device as trade-in, and then have you just return that device for a refund once your repair device does get it. He's like, it's going to be like a $450 hold on your phone. And for a while I debated it. I thought, hey, that'd be worth it, but then I just knew I would be on the hook if anything like this happened to that replacement device. I have a 2-year-old kid. What happens if he throws it? And the exact same thing happens, because that return period is only 15 days. So as tempting as that was, I decided not to do that, and I shipped my phone in. So I shipped the phone in Samsung, and I'm tracking it, and about a day after they receive it, I get an email from them, and it says the cost of my repair has been updated. And they were trying to charge me $100 because of that little like blotch that Ubreakifix caused on the screen right where the hinge is. And I had to call them and deal with their customer service, and they were super nice and they waived it, but it took probably about a half hour of waiting on hold, getting it approved by a supervisor. So November 10th is when the device broke, and yesterday, November 5th, is when I finally got my device back in working condition. And I wasn't entirely without my phone. I did have it in non-working condition for part of that time, but oh my gosh, it was such an ordeal. Thankfully, I did have cellular on my Galaxy Watch 4. that was a life changer. People were still able to get a hold of me. I still had Spotify, I still had Google Assistant. Anyways, that is my story. I would probably put 80% of blame on Samsung, 20% on Ubreakifix, but at least to Samsung's credit, you know, they did certain things right, like they're repairing devices that they realize they have a design flaw. And Ubreakifix, they didn't really do anything right. Whenever I'd show people what happened to my phone, they would always be like, oh, see, this is why I don't buy a folding phone, or, you know, oh, my husband wanted this, but I told him not to because they're fragile like this. Don't let that be a deterrent, honestly. Like, what's the difference between this happening or you dropping your phone on the screen, shattering? You know, stuff breaks, especially when you drop it. But at least under this circumstance, Samsung was super nice and repaired it at no cost to me. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to my story. Once again, this is a brand new channel. I cover a lot of smart home stuff. So I got some really cool automation videos already posted, but also a lot more recorded that I actually just need to edit. So please subscribe, stay tuned for those. And if you have any questions, any comments, I would love to hear those down below.